Anahata, and that means not hit. Ana is not, hata is hit. What this refers to is the sound that is not made by any two things striking together. The sound of my voice, any sound you hear is made by two things striking together, the voice, the air on the larynx cord. What is the sound that is not made by any two things striking together? It is Om. It is the sound of the energy of the universe of which all things are manifestations. The energy is what underlies all the forms, E equals mc squared. And the sound of that energy is said to be Om. Now, Om can be written in Roman letters either as O-M or as A-U-M. O in Sanskrit is analyzed into A and U. A-U-M, the four-element syllable. The four elements are A, U, M, and the silence out of which Om comes and back into which it goes. The Indians will always recognize that ground in silence, in the infinite, in transcendent, in the void. Kali. Om pronounced starts in the back of the mouth, then fills the mouth cavity, oo, and closes at the lips, When properly pronounced, you have made all the noises. And so all words are simply fragments of Om. Just as all the images of the broken forms of the world are fragments of the form of forms, so all words are fragments of Om. Om is the sound of the radiance of God. Om is discussed in the Mandukya Upanishad. There's a very interesting two-page Upanishad, M-A-N-D-U-K-Y-A, Mandukya, in terms of the four steps, the four stages. A is associated with waking consciousness, the gross bodies of the forms in which we dwell, and of which we are one. Here, I am not you, you are not I, and a duality prevails, an Aristotelian logic. A is not A. Aristotle's logic is the logic of waking consciousness carried right through it. He's not letting anything else break in there. Gross bodies, they are not self-luminous. They have to be illuminated from without. U is of dream. When you dream, you're surprised by your dream, and yet the dream is you. You as subject are surprised by yourself as object. You seem to be two, you and your dream, but you are one. So subject and object, though they seem to be two, are the same. I and you are the same. This is the breakthrough of the metaphysical realization that the two that seem to be separate are really one. And this is the midway point to transcendence, to realizing relationship as identity. Also, the objects of dream are subtle objects, self-radiant, changing form rapidly. Dream, vision, God. The gods and heavens and hells are what might be called the cosmic aspect of dream. And the dream is the personal aspect of myth. Dream and myth are of the same order. They're of the order of U, dream consciousness. And you and your God are one, just as you and your dream are. And your God isn't my God. So don't try to push it on me. Everyone has his own being and consciousness. The third order then is of which is deep, dreamless sleep. Consciousness is there. The heart is ticking. The body will respond to heat and cold and so forth and so forth. But the waking consciousness, the ahang consciousness, the ego consciousness, is not in touch with consciousness. It is wiped out by darkness. The goal of yoga is to bring your waking consciousness into that field of awake. And then what it will experience is undifferentiated consciousness. Not the consciousness of anything, but that primary consciousness to which we are trying to yoga, to link our waking consciousness. So that's what we're talking about. Now the deity in the Sanskrit system representative of this is Shiva as the dancer. I spoke of him yesterday, so I won't go through it again. But I will say this, in addition to what I was able to say yesterday. Look at the shape here, and the head, and then look at Om. In other words, while looking at the image of Shiva, you are hearing the syllable Om, the sound of the radiance. Now, in lecturing to Methodists, I tell them about graven images. This is a permanent meditation. It's not idolatry. You're not idolizing this image. It's the radiance. It's the opening of it. Shiva helps you go through Shiva. You don't stop with him. And this is the little dwarf forgetfulness on whom he is dancing. Fascinated by the serpent of the world. Ignorant of the fact of this weight on his back, just as we all are. Shiva's right there waiting for us to recognize him. And now comes the final thing. The soul beholds God, but the aim of the mystic is to be one with its beloved. I and the Father are one. I was challenged yesterday as to whether in the Gospels there is such a text. I looked it up, John 10:30. I and the Father are one. This realization. Well, Halaj, the great Sufi mystic, describes the situation this way. Well, I'll begin with Ramakrishna, who says, when you behold God, you are not God. There is a pane of glass between. The soul beholds its object, but the goal is to be one with that. How can we break through? How can we remove that barrier? And then, bang, soul and God. We're beyond pairs of opposites. Halaj says the situation is like that of a moth seeing at night a lantern. And it wants to get to the flame, but the glass keeps it out. And it batters itself all night long. And then goes to its friends in the morning and tells them what a wonderful thing it has just seen. And they say, you don't look the better for it. And this is the condition of the yogi, the ascetic, knocking himself to pieces to get through. Then it goes back the next night, and by luck or device, does break through, and for an instant has achieved its goal. It is the flame. And that instant is an eternal instant beyond time and space. And that is the goal here. So we remove the barrier, and bang, Sahasrara, the serpent, becomes one with the lotus at the crown of the head, the 1,000-petaled lotus. Sahasrara means 1,000-petaled. Here it is. But in the center, all we see are two footprints. These are the footprints of Vishnu that are to be worshipped. Why do we have footprints here? We thought we had broken through. Well, we're still talking. That's why. The symbols. And the words can act as barriers. We can get stuck with the footprints. Or we can pass through. And there's a text that appears both in Lao Tzu's work and in the Upanishads, in the Tao Te Ching, and in, I think, the Kena Upanishad, that those who know do not speak, and those who speak do not know. That's a hard word for one giving a lecture, but that's a warning here that we've got to go past the footprints. Chakras 4, 5, 6, and 7. 9th century, a stone cross in Northern Ireland. 14th century BC in Egypt. 1, 2, 3. Those who have not got above 3 are still animals. And so at the weighing of the heart against the feather, if the heart is not lighter than the feather, or as light as the feather, which represents spirit, angels, all that floating up there, it is going to mean that the body and soul are to be consumed by this monster. His nose is right there between chakras 3 and 4. However, if the spiritual has won, then it is Tot, who's the counterpart of Hermes, here represented as the baboon that greets the morning sun with howling, and he is in charge of the other chakras. 4, 5, 6, 7. 1400 BC. And so now we come to the final problem. What is this thing here between chakra 6 and chakra 7? At 6, pairs of opposites. From Brahma down to the blade of grass, all is pair of opposites. Above that, neither you nor God. This is what's called Maya. Maya is, as it were, the womb. And it's from a root ma, that means to measure forth. So she is the one that creates all pairs of opposites, creates both the lingam and the yoni, but beyond that there is nothing of the kind. And so here's the whole universe as the goddess. We are here. The hell's down there, the heaven's up here. How do you go to hell? By making your ego system harder and harder and harder and being stuck with it. Hell is the place of people stuck with themselves, stuck on themselves. And how do you get to heaven? Open, open, open until finally all is transparent. And so now we're going to start up the line here. The first center. These centers are called Padma, P-A-D-M-A, which means lotus. They're also called chakra, C-A-K-R-A. The C, as it's transliterated from Sanskrit, always is pronounced as though it were C-H, chakra, which means wheel. This is at the base of the body, between the rectum and the sex organs, at the very root of the body. It's called Muladhara, root base. I called that yoga posture that we saw Mula Bandhasana, the binding posture, binding the mula. At this level, the psyche is practically inert. It is just hanging on to life. And my image in my mind for this is dragons, which, as we know from biology, guard things in caves. The customs of the dragon have been studied for many millenniums. They guard things in caves. And what they guard in caves are beautiful virgins, symbols of the second chakra, chakra of sexuality, and heaps of gold, the third chakra, possession and winning. They don't know what to do with either, but they simply guard. Now this is the condition of the whole psyche when the energy is bound up in the Muladhara. No zeal for life, no positive action, only reaction. So the psychology appropriate to this dull condition is that of behaviorism, where you don't have an active psyche, but only a reactive one. Nietzsche calls this position that of groveling before sheer fact. Actually, there's no such thing as a sheer fact. It's this object for a subject. And the attitude of the mind beholding the object is what changes the character and meaning of the fact. People that hang on like this we call creeps, and they are exactly you might say, incarnation of the character of Chakra 1. Art on this level is simply sentimental naturalism. It has no breakthrough to the radiance. Here is a representation of the chakra, and we see in these symbolic forms what we've got. This rectangle is of the element earth, the grossest of the matters, of the elements. In the center is a red triangle. That is what is called the yoni. This is the womb, or the sex organ of Mother Cosmos. We are within her womb. She is time, space, the including a priori forms of sensibility and of the categories of knowledge. It's within that womb that we are. The lingam here, the male organ, represents the energy that breaks into that womb. Now, of course, this is an important and interesting thing here. We say that the lingam represents the energy coming from the transcendent coming into the womb. But the lingam is not antecedent to the womb, because there are no things, there are no pairs of opposites until you get within the womb. So this is a manner of symbolization that's proper to already being in time and space. There is no pair of opposites in the transcendent. It neither is male nor is it female. And when we talk about Brahman being the still energy and Maya, the active energy, we're talking in dualistic terms again. And this is the heart chakra. This is the chakra of this transformation. This little foyer here is the foyer of the wish-fulfilling tree. As the energies and as the illumination begins to approach this breakthrough, one has the feeling, all my wishes are about to be realized. And then they are indeed. Now the crucial thing here is the center. There again we have the yoni. Last time we saw it was on the, with the lingam within it was on chakra 1. This is the yoni of the virgin birth. This is the yoni of the birth of the spiritual as opposed to the merely physical life. A new trajectory of ideas that no animal can have. A notion of a spiritual life, and the first 3 chakras fall into a secondary position. People can go so far, as I said, if you're going up that Pingala line, as to reject the body altogether. It has fallen into a secondary place. The problem is through the body to come to this realization, so that it's in the body that the spiritual life is realized. The animal here is an antelope or gazelle, which is the vehicle of prana, the lord of the wind, the breath. This is the place where breath takes over and is in charge. Now the 2 triangles which form the 6-pointed star, the first represents aspiration. You have heard the syllable Om, resounding through all things. You don't have to go anywhere. It's here. It's here. Om. That's the sense of the inward turn meditation. I've got it within me. The fire is here. It's there. But I don't have to go there to capture it. I am there in this, and so forth and so on. The ubiquity of the experience and of the sound of Om. And now you want to hear the sound direct, not simply through things, but directly. And that is the aspiration then of spiritual striving. And the lower triangle pointing down is inertia, the physical inertia. And so now we're going to have a system of symbols of trying to put down the inertia system, the cravings of the mere physical body, so that a spiritual realization and amplification can be realized and the energy carried on. And so, through our effort, we have come to the vision of God, and this is at this chakra here, Agya, which means authority or power. The soul beholds its object. And what has happened? Come here, 2-petaled lotus, the soul and its god, Jiva, Ishvara. The goddess is the dominant figure here. This is Maya, with 6 heads. The 6th head is mind. And in her hands are the tick of time. Do not be afraid. Meditation, the scriptures, boon bestowing, and the severed head of the creator of the world on the lotus of her own love. The energy of chakra 3 was brought to 5. Through its exercise here, we've broken through, and the energy of love of chakra 2 is now experienced in its sublime form of love for God. When Dante beheld Beatrice, it was in the way not of chakra 2, but of chakra 6. He saw her not as an object of lust, but as a manifestation of the beauty of God's grace and love for the world. And through contemplating her in that way, he was brought to the throne of final realization. So that's what we have.